fisherman. Yes, people, we're going to be talking about fishing and the upcoming fête Fisher. And with me as my guests are, well, why don't I just let them introduce themselves? I'm so bad with names, you know, they just told me their names, or reminded me rather, and I've completely forgotten. Miss Yvonne Edwin, and we have Miss Kasha Mitchell. And you guys are going to introduce yourselves the rest of the way because I'm not going to risk botching it up any further. So let's start with you, Yvonne.
Hi, good evening, viewers. I am Yvonne Edwin, the Information and Communication Office Assistant with the Department of Fisheries.
And Kasha.
Good evening, viewers. I'm Kasha Mitchell. I'm the supervisor of the Northern Division of the Predial-Arseny Unit.
Wonderful. So, ladies, we're here to talk about fishing and Fisherman's Feast coming up. I mean, I love my fish, and I remember years ago always going up to Groseilliers every Fisherman's Feast to get my labby and my seafood. So, what's happening this year?
Okay, so this year on the 29th of June, as with every year, the fishermen and the fishing communities, they celebrate Fisher's Feast. Fisherman's Feast was known as, it's moved to Fisherman's Feast, sorry, and now it's called Fisher Folk Day.
Okay. Explain me why all of the changes. Fishermen to fishers to fisher folk. I kind of have a little idea why it's in Fisher, but Yvonne is going to tell us exactly why the name shift.
Of course, before, traditionally, men would go out to sea, and the day was recognized as Fisherman's Feast Day, and it moved to Fisher Feast because you had women coming in and other persons within the industry, the vendors and the fish handlers, so they were all referred to as fishers. Now it has moved, and it's a Caribbean thing now, and it's Fisher Folk Day, and it is being celebrated around the region on June 29th. So Monday would be Fisher Folk Day. And the weekend there will be celebrations, of course, throughout the fishing communities.
Wonderful. I mean, I have a friend, actually I have a friend, a female, who is a fisher folk. So I find it so cute. She's tough. And when I refer to her as cute, she's like, I'm not cute, I'm tough. But it's very refreshing to find women who are in those traditionally male-dominated
fields.
Yes. So how many fisher women do you reckon that there are?
Well, based on our database, we probably have about 10% of women who are involved in the industry. And of course, there is still the 90% because, of course, fishing has still been seen as a men-dominated field. Men would go out to fish, bring back the fish, and the women would be known to cook it. Of course, we know that nowadays these roles have changed. And like I said, we're not just thinking of those venturing out on the boat, but persons who are involved in terms of cleaning, handling, selling. You have the wholesalers and the retailers as well, and you have both men and women in the fishing industry handling those roles.
So what is the ministry doing to celebrate such a yummy fish? I mean, fishing and cleaning fish is not the most glamorous of professions, but yeah, eating and preparing the food, you know, that's...
Well, the Ministry of Agriculture through the Fisheries Department and the Ministry of Cooperatives, or the Department of Cooperatives rather, we're celebrating this day along with the fishing communities, the fisher cooperatives, the fisher folk organizations, and the individual communities. They have their individual schedules planned for the day, and I would imagine throughout the weekend, given Fisher Folk Day is on Monday. So there will be activities throughout the weekend, and you will hear of the individual calendars as the week progresses. Okay,
so it's on Monday, the
29th.
The day itself is Monday, but when do we celebrate all the goodies and the eats and everything?
The fishermen, traditionally, they would celebrate on the day. But given that it's close to the weekend, I would imagine that there are activities throughout the upcoming weekend. And what they would do is put aside all their fishing expeditions for that day. So they would have the church service in the morning. Throughout the day, they would have their various activities. And that, of course, would culminate in the evening with a country and western dance or some fete, as we know it.
Now, I'm going to take this moment to do a little plug. Most of you, if not all of you, should know by now that I'm from Labrie. And in Labrie is a fishing village. So I am so proud of my heritage. And every year we have this grand festivities. And we have so much planned for this Fisherman's Feast. But the newest addition to this is Feste Labowie, which is not really specifically to Fisherman's Feast. It's just that the inaugural Feste Labowie happens to fall the Sunday, I believe, or the
28th.
Friday. Yeah, the Sunday, is it? I think it's the Sunday. A Fisherman's Feast, and all of you should come down to experience Feste Labowie. Now, I'm not a very social person. I don't really go out, but I'm looking forward to that day because of all the goodies, all the seafood that we could get on that day. So I am encouraging you guys to come on down to the south, come on down to Labrie to celebrate with us Feste Labowie and Fisherman's Feast as only Laborians know how to celebrate. So that's my little plug for my community. Back to you, Yvonne. Tell us what else is, you want to share with us.
The department is primarily responsible for the management of marine resources. And we cannot do this alone. It's a collaborative effort, and we do this along with a lot of stakeholder agencies. Actually, in our vision, it's for us to build capacity with our stakeholders and partnerships. We could only manage our resources through these collaborations. And we've done this with NCA, with Marine Police, and we have also had the Prairie Alassani. We've had training with them, and they've been on board in terms of supporting the department in terms of enforcement. So we've worked along with them, and like I said, managing the fisheries and managing our resources, it's a task that has to be done collaboratively.
So this is where you come in, Kasha.
Yes.
First of all, tell us what exactly is Prairie Alassani. I think that's a term that we normally associate with crops, but here we are talking about fishing and Prairie Alassani. So tell us a little bit, tell us first what exactly is Prairie Alassani and how is it that you fall into a stakeholder agency for the Ministry of Fisheries?
Okay. Prairie Alassani is the theft of agricultural products. And when we speak of agricultural products, we speak to animal husbandry, aquaculture, mariculture, horticulture, forestry, whether for profit or subsistence. And like Yvonne was saying, we work alongside the fisheries department, and we would work with them in terms of checking for undersized lobsters. We have a group of farmers in the Prana area who actually grow sea moss. So we do surveillance work with them.
So wait, people actually steal sea moss?
Yes, people actually steal sea moss.
Okay, I can understand the pots, like, the lobsters and going for the, but sea moss, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, people.
And how much of a serious problem is that?
It is a very serious problem because we hear of those farmers complaining all the time because they've invested so much, the ropes to tie and everything, and some people, they even go with the ropes as well. So it's a very serious problem. Yes. And like I was saying, we do the persons who steal from people's pot as well. That Prairie Alassani would cover that as well.
Now, how do you go about investigating Prairie Alassani? Like, okay, my pot is gone. It's in the water. There's not exactly footprints or DNA to say, okay, I'm going to investigate and find who exactly stole my pot. How do you guys actually go about investigating that?
It is something that is very difficult. So this is why we rely a lot on intelligence information coming from members of the public, our farmers, our fishers. That's the only way we can deal with Prairie Alassani. And we do a lot of surveillance work, a lot of patrols. We organize it along our intelligence received from those persons.
So you actually have seawater patrols,
yes.
like you on the water, or wow,
we've been, yes,
with I would assume with collaboration from the Marine Police.
Well, what we do, we inform Marine Police that we're going to be out on the sea for the day, but we do it alongside fisheries. We've been so.
Oh, you have your own vessels.
Fisheries have a vessel.
So that, you know, it's a wonderful thing that you guys are here, because I always just figured, okay, well, pretty larceny, land-based, you know, you still my dashin and my yam and my watermelons and whatnot, and then I can track you down. But it never even occurred to me that it extends to the sea world, and how you would investigate that. So you have a vessel and you spend time on the water.
Spend time on the water. We should say a big thank you to fisheries. We're not fortunate to get a boat up in the north. It's mostly done in the south.
So is that because pretty larceny is more prevalent in the south than in the north, or it's just happens coincidentally?
It's just because we don't have the resources. Yes. So the boat is available in the south. So we go ahead and we use it in the south. But we're hoping soon that we can get something in the north to give the assistance. I'm pretty sure if we speak to fisheries and they can assist us.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, but then there are two guys down there. You call them and they set it up, no problem. Yeah, so
wonderful. So when investigating these calls for help, what is your success rate, your detect rate in investigating missing pots and sea moss and that kind of thing? And do you actually get back, or do you just catch the perpetrators and take them to court and charge them? What exactly does this entail?
Well, I have to say that we've not received so many reports on person tampering with pots. Probably it's not because that persons don't tamper with other people's pot, but we get a lot of remarks from farmers, fishers, that going to court is a waste of time. Yes, so it's a burden on them, so they rather just forget about it.
So they miss their pots, which is their livelihood, but then the court process is so long that they'd rather just forget about it and just bear the cost. But isn't that sad, though?
It is very sad.
I mean, this is somebody, or people rather, who have put their life you know, out there. They've invested. This is a business really for them. They, you know, they've invested in that. It's not easy, and especially in this economic climate, and they'll just rather give it up and just say, okay, I've lost that, and go on. But the persons who do report, how often are you able to help them in recovering their goods? Or, well, I assume they wouldn't get the goods back, because fish is not something that can stay. But in terms of getting some sort of restitution,
well, when they do, well, from the reports we've received, it's just that person's just going to the ports and noticing that it has been tampered with. There's no information as to who has tampered with the port, and what we do is to schedule patrols around probably the times that they've gone missing and stuff.
Have you caught anybody in the act?
No, we've not. Unfortunately, no.
Or maybe you're doing such a good job of patrolling that you're deterring them.
That's what we're aiming for, to deter. Yes, so that we can actually curb it. Yeah.
Okay, so how do the fisher put a figure on what's missing? I mean, to my mind, I'm not going to report anything if I'm not going to follow through with it. It could be 5 cents. The fact of the matter is, that's 5 cents that didn't belong to you. And if you get away with it once, that 5 cents will grow to 15 cents, to 50 cents, to $5, to $50, to $500, to $5,000, and upwards. So
I'm so happy you said that, because we're about doing lectures at the hotels, because they purchase produce. Yes, and it amazed me that sometimes I've read it on Facebook where they publicize our reports where we've gone to court and the matter has been successful in that they send the person to prison. And the comments you see, like for just for dashing, or you know, who your bagay, or you understand the comments people make, you know. But then people need to understand that these people are investing, and they probably depend solely on farming or fishing to bring to provide for their children and their families. So when one person steals from them, it's a burden to them. It's a problem. It's a loss. So it's not just your bagay or via magosa, via dashinsa or your dashin.
But could it really be because they're feeling I mean, the economic climate is such that it is so scruffy, for want of a better word, and so tough that these people feel frustrated and desperate, and they're stealing to survive?
It's not always that case, because you come across farmers who tell you that they actually they tell them come work for them, and they don't want to work. It's hard work. They don't want to do it. They rather go steal. You understand? Farmers actually say they bring them to their farms, ask them to do this, ask them to do that, but at the end of the day, they steal from them. Yeah, so
Even while they're working.
Even while they're working.
And getting a paycheck.
Yes.
But then there's this, is it a NICE or STEP program that's encouraging unemployed persons to work on the farms and yet still, I'm hoping that it's not these people, that it's other people.
Other people. Yeah, well, mostly those people who commit radio larceny, not all, but most of those people who commit radio larceny are what people consider the zombies, those people who really need to keep up with their habits. Yeah.
Okay, so then there is some sort of social problem
There is.
Associated with that, because it's like you said, they have to keep up with their addictions.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah, so
they might not even be able to work, really, if they're constantly jonesing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and some of these people, their families, they themselves have land that they can work, but they rather steal. They rather steal from the poor fishers and farmers. So it's a very serious problem.
And what's the barometer that you use to measure where you started and where you are today?
Well, in terms of our reports, our successes at court, how many cases we've gone to court with, how many
cases have you taken to court approximately?
Maybe about over 200.
Oh wow.
Over 200.
Wow.
Yeah.
Over 200.
Yes.
And then that's just a drop in the bucket as to the magnitude of the problem, because a lot of people are not reporting.
Exactly. Some people still don't report breed
Wow. Wow. And I would assume that would work. That's wonderful for you guys in the fisheries department, because your fishers are being helped and encouraged to continue fishing.
Yes, they are, and it's strange enough too that even fishers sometimes steal from fishers. So you would have incidents where, yes, there might be a report of theft, and you would be buying sometimes from a fisher who has stolen from somebody else's spot.
They do that. Considering that they know what it's like to be stolen from, they will steal from somebody else.
Yes, you do have those incidents, you do have those reported incidents. But some time ago we did start a tagging system where you'd be able to identify your port. So each port, you have 20 ports, we would tag the port. But that was not a successful program. It's something that we're revising and seeing how best we could put those unique identifying marks on the ports, because you would imagine persons build ports and they do look similar. And to bring that case to courts and it's a very, very ticklish process.
But if I were a fisherman who's stealing from another fisherman, I don't want the pot, because I can make my own pot. I want what's in the pot.
Yes, what's in the pot.
So I can take what's in the pot and discard the pot.
Yeah.
So
yes,
that kind of doesn't really
help the situation.
Yeah, because I can just get what's in the pot, and you can only catch me if I have in my possession.
In the act, yes. But of course, the department, like I said, we work along with the Predial Larceny Unit, we work along with the Marine Police, because what we really want to do is create the awareness and ensure that we have resources for future generations. And our primary responsibility is not enforcement, and we work along with them. The officer did speak of intelligence. When we do have intel, we do have intelligence on a particular situation, whether it be somebody with undersized lobsters or possession of turtles, because the law speaks of possession.
Speaking of turtles,
when we do have those incidents, we would liaise with the Predial Larceny department to help curb those activities, and they would intercede at that point.
So I'm guessing you know what I'm going to ask you about.
Yes.
I mean, wasn't that just horrendous? I just spoke about people slashing and maiming and chopping each other.
And do we care? And that's why I really liked your line when you started, and it's along those lines that we really want to create the awareness and sensitize people that when you do those activities, those sort of acts, slaughtering a turtle and leaving the eggs behind, you could only understand the implications, because through our drives and through our sensitization with communities and school, we speak of populations and replenishing populations. And if you're just going to discard or just leave behind the turtle eggs, or even interfering with a nesting turtle, which is prohibited by law, what selfish person would do that?
So not just selfish. I mean, to my mind, did you see those pictures? Like, I didn't see the actual thing, but I saw the pictures, and I'm thinking, if you could do that to a defenseless animal, what would you do to a human being? I mean, it starts there, and all the experts will tell you that all of those serial killers and all of those murderers, they start with small defenseless animals. So to me, to do that, that's crazy. That's horrendous. That's horrific. That's just beyond the words. But do you guys have any idea who did that, or is it possible to find out?
No, we do not have any idea. I mean, there is information in terms of who the group of people were, but of course you would understand that persons may not want to give off this information. And like my colleague from Pradial Lassani mentioned, you have to rely on the intelligence and build that capacity within the communities. Persons know, and even the act and the one that we're speaking of, it must have been skillful fishers or persons who are familiar with slaughtering of a turtle because of the way it was done. It wasn't something that was immature, if I should put it like that, because it was skillfully done. All of the meats and everything, and just the remains that were left behind, you could have seen it was a skillful act of somebody who may have been a traditional fisher and know the know-how of how to slaughter and get the meat out of it.
But the season is closed.
The season is currently closed. Right now we're in the nesting period, which is where turtles would come up to nest, and a recent news report indicated one came up to nest at Halcyon Beach. So you would find them along the West Coast beaches, along VG, along the Shock Beach. You would find turtles coming up to nest, and they just really look for this comfortable area. They would come up and nest, and we're hoping that persons would hear the cries of the fisheries department and leave the eggs and allow the turtle cycle to take form as it should.
So they killed the mommy and they left the eggs?
And they left the eggs.
What happened to those eggs?
All of the eggs, well, had to be discarded because they're so sensitive that even if it's left exposed for a certain amount of hours or days, there's nothing that you can do with it.
So they all died?
Yes, because with the cycle of a turtle, the turtle would have to have laid those eggs. And
oh, so you're saying that the turtle didn't have time to lay the eggs? They were extricated from the body?
Yes, the turtle came up to nest, and by law, turtles and their eggs are prohibited. You cannot interfere, catch a turtle that has come up to nest. To put it simply, the turtle is at a disadvantage because, of course, at that point she's vulnerable. She's coming up to nest, and she may have attempted several times. And you more or less have an advantage on the turtle. You cannot set a turtle net when the season is open more than 100 meters from shore, because if it is within that range, it is most likely a turtle coming up to nest. So there are various conditions when the season is open, and persons are aware of it. The traditional fishers who engage in the turtle fishery, they know the regulations, they know the conditions. So sometimes it's just persons who just do not care and do not understand the implications it could have to the turtle fishery.
Now, I don't know much about, I will be honest, I don't know much about that. But I do know, like a human being, when you've taken a baby, sometimes we take off the baby, it's not quite ready. So but for the health of the baby and the health of the mother, and we're able to incubate and do all of those things. That's not possible with turtles. Or we don't have that technology here.
No. But what would happen in just the simplest thing is that the turtle would come up to lay. She would dig a hole and cover that hole so skillfully that the eggs in there would take a 6 to 8 week period before they would emerge. And it's very sensitive, the eggs are sensitive at that point, because if it's exposed to the climate, to the weather, if the nest for whatever reason may be visible, or the sand may have removed over the process that when she comes up to nest, that alone can affect the turtles, because it has to be dug at a certain depth. She knows what to do. She would lay the eggs and cover her eggs. And like I said, it's a very skillful process that only the turtle could do this. And if you interfere with that process, of course, you're interfering with the population of sea turtles.
So the mommy lays the eggs and covers them up, and she takes off?
She takes off, never sees the turtles again. And 6 to 8 weeks after the baby turtles would emerge. 50 to 80 days, 6 to 8 weeks, the baby turtles would emerge.
And they know exactly what to do?
They would start their life, yes. They begin their journey, and they make their way to the sea.
So they never know their parents?
No. Yes.
I did not know that.
And the
I
turtle,
am so glad I am not a turtle. Honestly, I am so glad that I am not a turtle, because at my age, I cannot imagine not having my parents, much less a turtle and not knowing my parents. I don't, Mommy, Daddy, I love you. You know, just the thought I said in my next life, I'm coming as a wild animal.
yes.
Just not a turtle.
But that is the cycle, and the hatchlings, when they emerge, they know what to do. It's their natural instinct. But the only thing with the hatchlings emerging is that they're distracted by lights. And naturally what would happen is a turtle would come up on the beach and the moonlight would attract them. Normally they would emerge or come to nest during the night, and the moonlight would attract them, and that would be the indication to move towards the sea. But because of development along the coastline, hotels, infrastructure, and various things, the light distracts them, and sometimes they tend to move towards the road. And that is why a lot of our sensitization is, if you see this, and we inform the hotels and our other stakeholders what to do in the event you see a hatchling going in the wrong direction. Yes.
So how many eggs does a turtle normally lay?
It depends on the species, between 60 to 100 eggs, and it really depends on the species of turtle that we're talking about.
How many of these 60 to 100 eggs survive getting back to the ocean?
1 in every 1,000.
What?
1 in every 1,000 eggs. 1 in every 1,000 eggs. This is the survival rate of turtles. They would get to to become an adult,
so it's
which is 25 to 40 years later, because a mature turtle, at the point where she's able to breed and reproduce, it will be 25 to 40 years later.
Wow.
So the survival rate for that is why it is so important to protect the eggs, protect nesting turtles.
Wow.
That is why it is so important.
So when the hatchlings come out and they're, I know, I'm so sorry. Like,
yes,
this is very interesting. I never even gave a
Yes.
second thought to turtles.
Yes.
I mean, my most fond memory of my sister, one of my sisters
is a pet turtle.
yeah.
Okay.
Really
Yes.
was
But they're
food,
different.
But she
They're-
thought it was a pet. And
Yes.
I promise, Lily, I'm not going to tell the story, but yeah. So the hatchlings are going to the water. How many of those hatchlings make it to the water?
It's possible that they all can make it.
Is it right?
It's possible that they all can make it. Of course, there are other predators. You have birds, dogs. If you have garbage on the beach, dogs, and the other predators, crabs, and the other elements could affect.
And then
their
once they get to the
cycle.
water, it's
once they get
another
to the water,
ball
there's
game.
sharks and the currents and everything else that could impact. That is why it is so important for the human element, for us to ensure that we understand the cycle of a turtle, and how the human element, is removed from that formula.
So I really know for sure that I'm not coming back as a turtle, because the survival rate is too slim. I love life. I may not make it to 25 if I'm a turtle. That's not very appealing. And St. Lucia, really, we should care.
Yes.
We really, really should care. This is one of my do you care moments, right? Wow, 1 in every 1,000 turtles
1 in every 1,000.
make it to adulthood, to
Become a breeding adult.
yeah, to reproduce and to procreate, and we're just killing and slashing when they're at their most vulnerable. Do we really care that we're interfering with nature and what makes us unique? I mean, people come to the Caribbean to see turtles,
Yes.
I mean, so
in
let us,
a lot of Caribbean islands and countries, and people do not understand too. And I'll just give this example. There's a beach, I can't remember the island, the country right now, where tourists who came to that country could not bathe on the beach because of the amount of she's watching me, the amount of jellyfish that was on that beach. And if you understand the whole ecosystem, turtles eat jellyfish. And if we kill all the turtles, we depend so much on tourism that just imagine us having an influx of jellyfish and our tourists cannot enjoy the sand,
Not
the
cool.
sea. It's really, if we have to think of it, this is an example, it is a true example, and the persons could not bathe on the beach in that country
Because they
because
had
of the
killed all the-
jellyfish.
the
They killed all the
turtles.
turtles, and the jellyfish were just thriving in the water, and the tourists could not
Holy
enjoy.
moly.
So if we just look at just one action. When person slaughter a turtle or just eat and do all the other things that they're not supposed to do with turtles, you're actually affecting the whole cycle, the whole Mother Nature cycle.
So, which brings me to this question. Do we have seminars? Do we go to the schools? Do we educate? Because I know my niece would love that kind of information and should just absorb it.
Idle question. We're actually just completing. We did all of the hotels on beach that occupy beachfront property. We went to all of the hotels. We've had this discussion with the water sports personnel, with managers. We're sensitizing and building our partnerships because we cannot do it alone. The hotels have been trained in how to handle if they encounter a nesting turtle. We've been doing these presentations at schools, and of course we're not going to stop our outreach, and we're going to continue, as turtles are important, and some of those species are on the critically endangered list, and they are important. In Barbados, they come up and swim. In St. Lucia, we do not have this luxury. Yes.
You need to go to the Labrie Girls Primary School. Yeah?
Yes.
The Labrie Girls and the Labrie Boys Primary School need to have that seminar. I'm not saying that we don't appreciate the turtles, but I know, I don't recall ever hearing the kids say, "Oh, we had a lecture or a seminar on turtles," and Labrie being one of the better fishing villages. I mean, yeah, we are. We need to know these things.
Yes. And we're
It would be
continuing.
nice to swim with a turtle.
We are continuing our drive. And I mean, we need, as a tourist destination, we need to look at other alternatives and things that we have naturally and to utilize our resources. So here again is another opportunity.
Awesome. And when you come into Labrie Girls, let me know. I'm going to ask for the day off, and I'm going to sit in that class, because this is awesome. This is great information. Anything else you want to let us know? Ooh, the time. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, and we have a this is supposed to have been this segment said it should have been over already. But oh my gosh, the turtles.
Yes.
So any last minute
But the Department
words?
of Fisheries, we're doing a lot under the fisher development, a lot of training for CMOS farmers, for CMOS production. We want to do a lot of marketing and promotion for CMOS. Also our Kong divers, you may have heard of decompression sickness and bends. We're training our Kong divers in CO2, first aid, and other fishers around the island are receiving that training. And as we get ready for Fisherman Feast, I just want persons to be mindful that the sea turtle season is closed, the lobster season is closed, the sea urchin season is closed. So they should be
too. So
the sea eggs. So the fishers and the fishing community should be mindful during the festivities during the weekend that these seasons are closed, and they are quite aware of when they open and when they're allowed
so
to be on
Fisherman's
their
Feast with no sea urchins?
Yes.
Oh well.
But I'm
we
sure
have to
they're
respect
going
that.
to have
to
a festive, and there are a lot of other. Yes, the conch. It's open fishery now.
Oh, okay,
yes.
wonderful. At
So
least
there's
something.
conch. Yes, and a lot of potfish and a lot of the other species.
So, but I'm certainly sure we'll enjoy it anyways. The different preparation and treatment of it, of the fish. So, and there's the kingfish.
There's the kingfish. There's octopus. There's so much other species of potfish that we can enjoy and can prepare in a number of ways. So I'm sure the festivals will be just as festive without lobster, turtles, and sea eggs.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for coming and sharing just this little bit. I must have you guys back on for the entire show to tell us all about the wonderful experiences of the I'm not a sea person. I love going to the beach, but I can't swim. But this has just been wonderful. Thank you so much. We're due for a break. When we come back, it's all about water. See you on the other side of the break.